Today is Sunday, October 26, 2025. It's the end of another work week. If this is your first time checking out the Gig Geezer, thanks for coming by. If you're a returning visitor of the Gig Geezer, thanks also for coming by. And if you happen to like the content that's been provided in this segment or in any other segment, hit that subscribe button, give my content a thumbs up, share my content among others, and I definitely welcome comments in the section below. When things seem to be meant for your harm or for your disappointment or for your detriment, and you still press through with your week. And that's exactly what happened, at least on two occasions this week. And I'm not going to talk about what I earned this week because it really doesn't matter. I'm going to share about how I didn't make really the best of decisions, but yet somehow made something out of them. And then there were some things that happened this week that obviously were meant for my detriment, for my disappointment, for my frustration, and yet we got through them. So to start it off, I began the week, which would be Monday, October 20, 2025. I began the week actually with every intention of trying to set myself up for a stacked opportunity. And it didn't go my way. And what ended up happening was that I followed through with a brokered opportunity that I booked that on its own was not a good good decision. It was not a good move on my part. What bailed me out was a part of the strategy was when I got to the drop-off location. In fact, I'll just give the locations. The pickup was in Aiken, South Carolina. It's very much a run that I did last month that I described how a broker, I called the broker for a brokered opportunity, and they got the transferring me around and all that stuff. And by the time I got a hold of the person who actually was to handle it, the opportunity was booked ahead. It was booked from right up under me. This opportunity from Aiken to Anderson, Alabama, is a 250-mile run. And I'm going to say, in a sense, it was kind of saving face because of how the strategy that I had in mind didn't go the way I had drew it up on the chalkboard. But I knew that there was the possibility of saving some face by catching something on the way back to South Carolina as I drove through Atlanta. Because from Anniston to Atlanta is like an hour and a half. And so there was that potential. And that's exactly what happened. On the way back, I called a brokered opportunity from Atlanta going up to North Carolina. So that meant that I would be passing through the Columbia, South Carolina metropolitan area, which is where I'm based out of. I get a chance to sleep. And then basically, because you don't double up on your miles, you don't double up on miles count, because you assume that if I were to go from Aiken back to where I'm at, to home base, you would count then the deadhead miles. Because of that, I can count then the miles from here to the drop-off location just outside of Charlotte, about an hour outside of Charlotte. And in that respect, it kind of bailed me out from what was then really a bad play, a bad strategy move on my part. Well, when I got back to the Columbia area, because what happened was while I was in North Carolina, I found a couple of other local delivery opportunities to kind of help offset the gas money that I'd spent, which was almost two tanks of gas, because there was a tank of gas going to Anniston and back. And then when I came back through Columbia area, I topped off the tank to account for going the rest of the way up to North Carolina and back. Well, when I got back to Columbia, I decided to go stop and check where my box truck had been parked. And the reason why I'm saying that is because based on my parking situation, I had to find another place to park my box truck. Simply, bottom line, prior to moving to the current Geezer compound, the place where I lived previously, I was able to park the box truck in my driveway. I'm not allowed to do that where I'm at here it's a violation of homeowner association rules. And so I was allowed to park my box truck in a public place, a gas station. Um, and despite some warnings or despite some admonitions and warnings about the potential of people trying to steal shit out of your truck or off your truck, I did it with caution. But when I came back that evening, I noticed something wasn't right. I noticed something wasn't right, and just out of curiosity, since it was at nighttime, I flashed my light where I noticed where something wasn't right, and somebody cut my fucking battery. That's right, somebody cut my fucking battery. Battery that cost me at the time like $239. Somebody decides that they needed my box truck battery more than I did. Now, you say, well, how could somebody access my battery? Well, on my box truck, the battery is exposed. And because of the size of the battery, I couldn't use the bracket that was on the battery that came with the box truck when I first bought it. So what I did was I secured it using zip ties. Somebody cut the zip ties and just simply lifted the cables and took the battery. So I was in a position, fortunately, to get a battery that evening. And fortunately, the guy at the part shop hooked me up to where I paid just $198 for the battery instead of $239. Now, what was frustrating for me is that just a week before I bought a battery for my daughter, and that cost me $289 for her car. So I within 2 weeks, I done paid for 2 batteries. Well, that was meant, I guess you could say that was meant for my harm, my frustration, my disappointment. So what I did was the next day, I went ahead with doing what I probably should have done initially, and that it was a lesson learned. About the security of my battery. What's forcing me to do now is to get me a chain link and secured with a padlock. The second thing was finding a public storage place in which there's 24-hour, at least you have 24-hour cameras on the property, and there has to be security access code to get into the place. And so that's worked out, and I got it for a reasonable dollar amount per month. So I go through the week, and I know I've been talking for about 8 minutes or so into this segment of the Gig Geezer, and I'll just tell you up front that, hey, if you don't like the content that's been provided in this segment or in any other segment, you can always unsubscribe or give it a thumbs down. But if you happen to like the content that's been provided in this segment or in any other segment, hit that subscribe button, give my content a thumbs up, share my content among others, and I definitely welcome comments in the section below. So, midweek, Wednesday, I made a similar risky choice. And you say that was a similar risky choice because it was for same dollar amount as the Aiken to Anniston opportunity. And I'll admit that, hey, it was not for the type of money that I normally get stuff for. But I'm looking at there was a possibility of catching something else along the way. And it just so happened that I was able to book yet another opportunity. So basically, I stacked for the second time in the week 2 brokered opportunities. Well, this one, the original one was from, and also what was ironic was that I was looking to try to stack something with the brokered opportunity that I actually booked, but I was unable to book anything, at least for late night low board based opportunity, because what I was going to do was find something late night, early morning delivery, and then from there that would take me over on the side of the state where the pickup location was, and then stack that with the brokered opportunity, and then move on throughout the day. Well, as it turned out, this one was from Greenville going to Bluffton, South Carolina, so it was cross state. Well, in the midst of heading to Greenville, I was able to book an opportunity out of Mount Pleasant, South Carolina, which is the Charleston area, going to Atlanta. Now, that ironically was the opportunity that the broker had previously fucked me out of, I will say, and I'll just leave it at that. The broker had fucked me out of booking that opportunity a month earlier, but I was able to book it this time, and also for the same money that I was trying to get it for the last time. So that left me. So what that did was it set me up with a stacked opportunity, and so once I picked up in Greenville, I went over to Mount Pleasant and picked up because it's a shorter distance from Greenville to Mount Pleasant, and then from Mount Pleasant drop off in Bluff and then drive back through Columbia, using those counting those miles, those deadhead miles back to Columbia on the Greenville to Bluffton opportunity, and then from Columbia to Atlanta. That really looked like it looked even better based on miles because it was 70, it was 100 less miles in the process based on how I could account for the miles and the money that to be earned. It was 100 less miles that would be counted on that run to Atlanta because of my having to come back through Columbia area anyway. So once I got to Atlanta, I'm looking at now possibly trying to catch some money coming back to the Columbia area. And damn if I didn't, I was able to book a brokered opportunity. In fact, the drop off was at the airport, and it was on the same row of cargo terminals where I was dropping off and then having to pick up. So once I dropped off from the terminal with the brokered opportunity from Mount Pleasant, all I had to do was go over to the next terminal for pickup, and I was able to book that for a decent amount of money. In fact, here's a lesson about dollar mile shit. Initially I was gonna, for transparency's sake, I was gonna do an entire segment on how people really fuck themselves out of money just thinking on that dollar mile mentality. But for the lesson, this is a good one. That brokered opportunity was 135 miles from Atlanta to Grovetown, Georgia, which is the Augusta, Georgia area. They initially posted it for $150. When I got in contact with the broker, I asked for 300. I had asked for 300. He said, well, 200 was the most we can do. I said 300. He said the most we can do was 200. Can we do 200? So I said, okay, I'm looking to make some money coming back. I've already made money going to Atlanta. I'm looking to just run up the numbers. So I said, well, can we agree on 250? And for the last time he says, well, can we do 200? I said, can we do 250? That is my best. Well, I didn't get any response, so I decided that I would call. And when I called him, I said, hey, look, man, we've been going back and forth on emails about this, and I can we do 250? He says, okay, let me see. And so when he gets back with me, he says, okay, I'll send you the rate confirmation sheet. He had agreed to 250. We went through a bunch of other back and forth on some other things from an administrative standpoint, but the rate con does reflect $250 on a 135-mile trip. Now, anybody who's followed the Gig Geezer would say, well, Gig Geezer, that's kind of a little less than what you normally get. But you got to remember, I already had money in the pocket, and all I was looking to do was run up the numbers. So I was willing to give up $50 or even $25 just to say that I'm running up numbers. I understand how stacking works, and I understand how some people would try to piece together opportunities by putting together multiple partial opportunities, but I'm still not going to cheat myself. So if I told you how much I earned for that little opportunity, you'd understand why I did what I did, and for the money that I did what I did. Once again, as I mentioned, I made a risky decision, but lucked out, got bailed out when I was able to connect on a Mount Pleasant or Charleston area opportunity to Atlanta. And then from there, the strategy worked out even better with me finding money coming back to Columbia. Well, I ended the week with 2 more low board based opportunities, and both of those opportunities required me using the Geezer 16 box truck. And so when I went by the storage place to get the box truck, I happened to notice that there was a light that was missing, one of these, what they call these clearance markers that are on your vehicle. If you ever look at trucks or box trucks at nighttime, you see the yellow lights and you see like the yellow lights in front, and then along the sides and in the back you see red lights. And it was one of the red lights on the right rear side. It was missing the actual lens, the color lens, and one of the lights was out. Now, why am I making a big deal out of that? If you deal with DOT and DOT inspections, they will actually ding you for one of your lights being out of service. What their mentality is, because it's a cash grab, you got to understand. If there's a light if there's a light on your vehicle, if there is a light that is on your vehicle, that light is supposed to be operational. They don't care if, for whatever reason, they want to see if there's a light there, it's supposed to be operational. Well, that light cost $5.28 to replace. So I'm thinking, I'm now at the end of the week, I finished all my runs, and I'm coming back to Columbia. I will bring the box truck over to the Geezer compound to work on it because I have my ladder at the Geezer compound. I get right to the corner that is across the street from where I'm actually documenting this segment of the gig Geezer. So I'm literally looking across the street, about 200 feet away. Maybe 200 feet, maybe about 150 feet away, something like that, 50 yards away. And as I'm about to approach my place, I clip something. The box portion of the truck clips a neighbor's mailbox. Clips the mailbox, knocks it off. And I'm like, oh man. And I get out the truck, and neighbor's wife, she's out. We talk. I told her, look, I got a 4x4 in the house. I got you. I got this. I'll take care of it. She's like, okay, as long as it's taken care of, I got no problem. I'll let my husband know what's going on. And so I end up having to spend $50 on replacing a neighbor's mailbox because, I mean, you can say shit happens, but damn, man, I mean, it's been a crazy week. I started off the week having to spend extra money, or money that I didn't intend on spending, to replace something that somebody felt they needed more than me. And then on my way back, I do something that is completely, I mean, you say, well, how in the hell did I clip somebody's mailbox? Okay, well, what happened was there was a pickup truck across the street from, parked across the street from the people's house. And I call myself kind of clearing the truck as I'm coming in. And apparently, as I cleared, I was too close to the people's mailbox. It's simple as that. You know, mailboxes kind of, here in the South, you got mailboxes that are at the street curb, and they're for the, and you have mail routes in which they come out of the truck and, you know, put mail and get mail out and all that. Well, $50 was spent on, come to find out, I did not have a 4x4. I had some 2x4s, but I didn't have a 4x4 as I thought I had. So I spent $10 on a 4x4. I spent $7 and change on some nails, some 2-inch tip standard nails, and $29 for a mailbox, a replacement mailbox. The one good thing about how that mailbox was nailed and clipped, it didn't disintegrate how the mailbox was placed on the wood. It gave me then a template how I needed to replace the mailbox. And so I spent all together going to the store, coming back and cutting the wood and cutting the wood and fashioning the wood in a way to make it fit on their mailbox. In fact, I did it almost to the exact measurements, within about a quarter of an inch, actually more like about a quarter to an eighth of an inch. The main thing was making sure that the mailbox fit in like this. That was the main thing, which I did. Fortunately, I also had power tools and all that other stuff from over the years. So $50 for that, $200 on a battery. What a way to start a week. What a way to end a week. Things that I guess that were meant for my frustration and harm. Fortunately, I was in a position to rectify those situations and keep on going. So I'm pretty sure that some of y'all have experienced weeks like that where you're putting out money on things that are beyond the course, beyond the spectrum of really conducting business. It's like things happen and it's seemingly it's meant to just really disappoint you, depress you, set you back. But fortunately, again, I was in a position to take care of those things on the spot and keep it moving. So that's all I really have to share for this segment of the Gig Geezer. You may have gotten a little laugh out of it. You may have gotten some entertainment. You may can resonate with what maybe what I'm sharing with you may resonate with you. Maybe you can relate to what I'm talking about. And so again, if you like the content that's been provided in this segment or in any other segment, hit that subscribe button. Give my content a thumbs up. Share my content among others, and I definitely welcome your comments in the section below. I'm Inwood Lane. May your business, may your grind, and may your hustle continue.